Even though Pokemon Go has broken download records and attracted more players than any app in recent history, it didn't take long for that fan fervor to die down as frustrations with the game have risen. From not delivering on promises to outright cutting out vital parts of the game, here are a few reasons once dedicated players have turned against Pokemon Go. The 3-step bug. When Pokemon Go launched, the game included a feature that allowed players to locate nearby Pokemon with some accuracy, which was in line with the app's advertising. Instead of making players wander aimlessly, hoping for a random encounter, the game made it so little monsters in your vicinity would show up in a pop-up grid indicating their distance from you. Before long, this feature stopped working, giving players no clue at all about where to find that elusive Snorlax. That might be fine for a Game Boy game, but not so much for the real world. As of the making of this video, the feature has not returned, with developer Niantic saying that it put too much strain on the game's servers. Terms of service. Because the game's tracking was busted, a website called Pokevision emerged to help find nearby Pokemon. Even though the site broke Niantic's terms of service by data mining to locate Pokemon, it provided an extremely useful tool to make up for the missing feature. Unfortunately, after a few weeks, Niantic forced Pokevision to shut down. This was a breaking point for many players, who weren't shy about voicing their frustration. The developers later explained in a blog post that the data scraping was still straining their servers and preventing them from launching in more countries, so everyone basically had to take one for the team. The update. Around this time, Niantic also pushed a small update to the game. But rather than fixing any outstanding bugs, like the app constantly freezing or its inaccurate GPS, Niantic only made minor cosmetic changes and completely removed the game's tracking ability. Angry users started contacting the app stores for refunds, and Niantic became more hated than Mr. Mime, Pokemon's #1 crime against nature. Players speculated that the minor updates were done only to bury the app's 1-star ratings, as some online stores only reflect the ratings of an app's most recent version. A slight change to the game's code and Niantic wiped the slate clean. Eventually, tracking was kind of replaced, allowing players to find Pokemon based on local Pokestops. But it still wasn't the same. Microtransaction manipulation. One game update also conveniently included a bug that made Pokemon harder to capture. Some players denied that the game had increased in difficulty, though seeing a lowly Caterpie swat away a perfect throw implied otherwise. Niantic confirmed the bug, but did not immediately offer a solution, because it didn't really do much more than make players purchase more items from the game's store. With trust between players and Niantic already shaken, many speculated that the change wasn't a bug at all, but Niantic purposely gaming the system to make more money. No reply. Players tried to contact Niantic for solutions, but discovered that the email address the developer had provided for customer support wasn't being monitored. Reddit users coordinated masses of people in the Pokemon Go community to contact Apple and Google and let them know about Niantic's terms of service violations. Tips were dropped about how to successfully request refunds, and Niantic came under full attack by a user base that had become upset with a game that was totally breaking down. Shut it down. By now, Niantic had received complaints about certain locations not being appropriate for Pokemon Go use. From personal residences to a Holocaust museum, players started to see the first big wave of Pokestop closures, which became apparent when Niantic started shutting down Pokestops at children's hospitals, where the game had become especially popular. Players guessed that the game's augmented reality features could be a violation of HIPAA regulations, but that didn't do much to quell the disappointment of the countless kids who no longer had an available gym or Pokestop. Once the darling of the app world, Niantic had entered a PR nightmare, worse than those seizure-inducing Porygon episodes.
We now return to battling seizure robots.
Winter is coming. Pokemon Go is skewed towards urban players, since that's where Pokemon spawn most often. So for many rural players, catching monsters as a car passenger was really the only option to safely build an army of Eevees. Despite Niantic's on-screen warnings to never use the app while driving, further updates completely removed the ability to catch anything at driving or even biking speeds. For people without sidewalks and kids on long, boring car rides, the game was essentially killed. And even though Niantic had already lost a record number of players, those numbers will continue to drop during the colder weather, since no one will want to take off their gloves to catch another dumb Pidgey. Terrible GPS. One of Pokemon Go's more rewarding features is the ability for players to hatch eggs by walking large distances. Not only does the feature really get people outside and on their feet, but it also promises better Pokemon for your efforts. That is, it would if the game's GPS worked consistently. Niantic continues to struggle with mapping players' walking distances accurately, with many players reporting that fewer than half of their steps have been tracked after a hike. With the GPS repeatedly cutting out and disconnecting, players have become disinclined to make the effort at all. The Pokemon Go Plus wristband was supposed to change that. However, plus disappointment. When Pokemon Go Plus finally came out, it just didn't work as players hoped. When the Plus lights up, players can tap the center button to either catch a Pokemon or snag goods from a Pokestop. Unfortunately, you don't really have a choice about which of these two things you can do. If there's a wild Pokemon nearby, the Plus has to catch it before you can access any Pokestops. Additionally, the Plus will only use regular Pokeballs and not your fancy high-yield balls, and players report that the catch rate is far lower than what you'd get if you just used the app, leaving many players coming up empty-handed. You also can't use any items that would make Pokemon capture easier. And that's not all, you'll still need to be running the battery-draining app on your phone. The battery of the Plus is not rechargeable, and the accessory will constantly disconnect from your phone. You also can't catch types that you haven't already caught. You may as well just use your phone, or just, give up completely. No legendary events. Anyone still playing is holding out for another undelivered promise from the game's commercials: legendary events. Even though players still can't directly battle one another, or even trade Pokemon like civilized human beings, everyone still wants to be able to capture a Mewtwo or a Zapdos. Niantic decided to run a Halloween-themed event to tide people over, and even managed to draw back in players who had put the game aside. But they've made no statements about releasing any legendary Pokemon into the wild. Until then, it's just a handful of people catching the same things over and over, until everyone finally moves on to the next game, or just back to trading Pokemon cards.
Are you ready to be the ultimate Pokemon Master Trainer?
Yes, I think I am.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more videos like the one you just saw. And leave us a comment to let us know if you're still playing Pokemon Go.